embrace?
Carnal embrace is the practice of throwing one's arms around a side of beef.
Is that all?
No. A shoulder of mutton, a haunch of venison well hugged, an embrace of drought, carnal, feminine flesh.
Is it a sin?
Not necessarily, my lady, but when carnal embrace is sinful, it is the sin of the flesh, QED. We had caro in our Gallic wars. The Britons live on milk and meat. Lactate, carne we wouldn't. I'm sorry that the seed fell on stony ground.
That was the sin of Onan, wasn't it, Septimus?
Yes. He was giving his brother's wife a Latin lesson, and she was hardly the wiser after it than before. I thought you were finding a proof of Matt's last theorem.
It is very difficult, Septimus. You will have to show me how.
If I knew how, there'd be no reason to ask you. Matt's last theorem has kept people busy for 150 years, and I had hoped it would keep you busy long enough for me to read Mr. Chater's poem, In Praise of Love, with only the distraction of its own absurdity.
How Mr. Chater has written a poem?
He believes he has written a poem, yes. I can see why there might be more carnality in your algebra than in Mr. Chater's couch of errors.
Oh, it was not my algebra. I heard Jellyby telling Cook that Mrs. Chater was discovered in carnal embrace in the gazebo.
Ah, and with whom did Jellyby happen to say?
What do you mean with whom?
With what, exactly so? The ideas are absurd. Where did this story come from?
Mr. Noakes.
Mr. Noakes.
Papa's landscape gardener. He was taking bearings in the garden when he saw with his spyglass Mrs. Chater in the gazebo in carnal embrace.
And do you mean to tell me Mr. Noakes told Jellyby?
No, Mr. Noakes told Mr. Chater. Jellyby was told by the groom, who overheard Mr. Noakes telling Mr. Chater in the stable yard.
Mr. Chater being engaged in closing the stable door.
What do you mean, sir?
So, thus far, the only people that know about this are Mr. Noakes, the landscape architect, the cook, the groom, the butler, and Mrs. Chater's husband, the poet.
And Arthur, who's cleaning the silver, and the boot boy, and now you.
Of course. What else did he say?
Mr. Noakes.
No, not Mr. Noakes, Jellyby. You heard Jellyby telling Cook.
Cook hushed him almost as soon as he started. Jellyby did not notice that I was being allowed to finish yesterday's upstairs rabbit pie before I came to my lesson. I think you've not been candid with me, Septimus. A gazebo is not, after all, a meat larder.
I never said my definition was complete.
Is carnal embrace kissing?
Yes.
And throwing one's arms around Mrs. Chater?
Yes. Now,
I thought as much. I hope you are ashamed.
I, my lady?
You do not teach me the proper meaning of things. Who will?
Ah, yes. I am ashamed. Carnal embraces sexual congress, which is the insertion of the male genital organ into the female genital organ for purposes of procreation and pleasure. For Matt's last theorem, by contrast, asserts that when x, y, and z are all real numbers, each raised to the power of n, the sum of the first two can never equal the third if n is greater than 2. Nevertheless, that is the theorem.
It is disgusting and incomprehensible. Now, when I'm going to practice it myself, I shall never do so without thinking of you.
Thank you very much, my lady.
Tell me more about sexual congress.
There is nothing more to be said about sexual congress.
Is it the same as love?
Oh no, it's much nicer than that. I am teaching Jellyby.
Beg your pardon, Mr. Archer. Mr. Chater was urgent to receive his letter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chater asked me to bring him your answer.
My answer? Well, you can tell Mr. Chater that as is my custom and my duty to his lordship, I am engaged in the education of his daughter until 11:45. After that, if he is still there, I will be happy to wait upon him in the gun room.
Yes, sir. I will say so.
What is for dinner, Jonathan?
Boiled ham and cabbages for the lady, and rice for the...
Goody. Will you stir your rice pudding, Septimus? The spoonful of jam spreads itself around, making red trails like the picture of a meteor in my astronomical atlas. But when you stir backward, the jam does not come together again. Indeed, the pudding does not notice and continues to turn pink just as before. Do you think this is odd?
No,
Well, I do. You cannot stir things apart.
no more you can. Time must needs run backwards, and since it will not, we must mix our way onward as we go, disorder after disorder into disorder, until pink is complete, unchanging, and unchangeable, and we are done with it forever. This is known as free will or self-determination.
Septimus, do you think God is a Newtonian?
An Etonian, almost certainly, I'm afraid. You'll have to make your brother's first enquiry.
No, Septimus, a Newtonian. Septimus, do you think I am the first person to have thought of this?
No.
I have not said yet.
If everything from the furthest planet to the smallest atom of our brains act according to Newton's laws, what's becoming of a free will?
No.
God's will.
No.
Sin.
No.
Very well.
If you could stop every atom in its position and direction, and if your mind could comprehend all of the actions thus suspended, then, if you were really, really good at algebra, you could write the formula for all the future. And although no one can be so clever as to do it, the formula must exist as if one could.
Yes. Yes, I believe you are the first person to have thought of this. In the margin of his copy of Arithmetica, Fermat wrote that he had found a wonderful proof for his theorem, but the margin being too narrow for his purpose, was unable to write it down. The note was found after his death, and from that date to this...
Oh, I see now. The answer is perfectly obvious.
This time I think you may have overreached yourself. Mr. Chater, perhaps my message miscarried. I will be at liberty at 11:45 if that is convenient.
It is not convenient. Sir, my business will not wait.
Then I suppose you have the opinion of Lord Huhnke that your business is more important than the education of his daughter.
I do not. But, if you like, I will ask his lordship to settle the point.
My lady, take Fermat into the music room. There will be an extra spoonful of jam if we find a proof for his theory.
There is no proof, Septimus. The thing that is perfectly obvious is that the note on margin was a joke to make you all mad.
Indeed. Now, sir, what is this business that cannot wait?
I think you know it, sir. You have insulted my wife.
Insulted her? That would deny my nature, my conduct, and the admiration which I hold Mrs. Chater.
I have heard of your admiration, sir. You insulted my wife in the gazebo yesterday evening.
You are mistaken. I made love to your wife in the gazebo yesterday evening. Let us know. I dare say I can find it for you. But if somebody's putting it about that I did not turn up, by God, sir, this is slander.
Sit down, lecture. You would drag down a lady's reputation to make a refuge for your cowardice. It will not do. I'm calling you that.
Chater, my dear
If you
friend.
dare to call me that, I demand satisfaction.
Mrs. Chater demanded satisfaction. And now you are demanding satisfaction. I cannot spend my time day and night satisfying the demands of the Chater family. As for your wife's reputation, it stands where it has stood.
Blabbing.
I assure you, Mrs. Chater is charming and spirited, with a pleasing voice and a dainty step. She is the epitome of all the qualities society affords in her sex, and yet her chief renown is for a readiness that keeps her in a state of tropical humidity, as the raw orchids in the drawers in January.
Damn you what? I will not listen to this. Will you fight or not?
Not. There are no more than 2 or 3 poets of the first rank now living, and I will not shoot one of them dead over a perpendicular poke in a gazebo with a woman whose reputation could not be adequately defended by a platoon of musketry deployed by Rosa.
Huh? You say so, do you? Who are the others in your... No, this goes very ill, Podge. I will not be flattered out of my course. You say so, do you?
I do. And I would say the same to Milton, were he not already dead. No, the bit about his wife, of course.
Among the living, Southey.
Southey I would have shot on sight.
Yes, he has fallen off, I'm afraid. I ride foul of a cloister's man. Oh, dear me. But he is straying from the business here. You took advantage of Mrs. Chater. And if that's not bad enough, it seems that...
Damn me! Have you not listened to a single word I have said?
I have, and I will not deny your love and regard. I would very much like to learn the name of the scoundrel who slandered my verse drama, the Maid of Turkey, the Piccadilly Recreation, too.
The Maid of Turkey? I have it by my bedside. When I cannot sleep, I take up the Maid of Turkey like an old friend.
There you are. And the scoundrel wrote he would not give it to his dog for dinner, would cover it in bread sauce and stuffed with chestnuts. When Mrs. Chater read that, she wept, so would not give herself to me for a fortnight. Which recalls me to my
The new poem, however, will make your name perpetual.
but whether it's due or not.
It is not a question, sir. No coterie can oppose the acclamation of the reading public. The couch of Eros will take the tack.
That is your estimation.
It is my intent.
Well, is it? Is it? I do not understand you.
You see, I have an early copy sent to me for review. I say review, but I speak of an extensive appreciation of your gifts and your rightful place in English literature.
That is very... You have written it.
Not yet.
How long does
To be done right, it requires a careful reading of your book, of both your books, several readings combined with outline works, to form a picture of deference or disdain as the case merits. I take notes, of course, I order my thoughts, and when all is ready and I am calm in
Did
mind...
Mrs. Chater know of this before you...
I think she very likely did.
There is nothing that woman would not do for me. Now you have an insight to her character. By God, she is a light to me, sir.
For that alone, I would not make her a widow.
Captain Bryce once made the same observation.
Captain Bryce did?
Mr. Hodge, allow me to inscribe your copy in happy anticipation. Lady Thomasina's pen will serve us.
Your connection to her ladyship, you owe to fighting her brother.
No, it was all nonsense, sir. A canard, but a fortunate mistake, sir. It brought me the patronage of the captain of His Majesty's Royal Navy and the brother of the Countess, too. I doubt Sir Walter Scott can say as much, but yet here I am, respected guest at Sibley Park.
Well, sir, you can say you have received satisfaction. Mr. Noakes, my money-mettled rascal, have you forgotten your spyglass?
I beg your pardon. I thought her ladyship... Excuse me.
To my friend, Septimus Hodge, who stood up and did his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sibley Park, Derbyshire, April 10, 1809. There, sir. Something to show your grandchildren.
This is more than I deserve. This is handsome. What say you, Noakes?
Oh, no, not the cathedral. Mr. Noakes, what is this I do?
Not only the gazebo, but the boathouse, the Chinese bridge, the shrubbery.
My God, sir! Not possible.
Mr. Noakes will have it so.
Mr. Noakes, this is monstrous.
I'm glad to hear from you, Mr. Hodge.
May I return now?
Not just yet.
Let us stay. A lesson in folly is worth two in wisdom.
City Park being Englishman's garden, or the haunt of Corsican brigands.
Let us not hyperbolize, sir.
It is great, sir. It is the modern style.
Regrettable, of course, but so it is.
Mr. Chater, you show too much submission. Mr. Hodge, I appeal to you.
Madame, I regret the gazebo. I sincerely regret the gazebo. And the boathouse up to a point. But the Chinese bridge is fantasy, and the shrubbery I reject with contempt. Mr. Chater, would you take the word of a jumped-up, jobbing gardener who sees carnal embrace in every nook and cranny of the landscape?
Septimus, I do not think they are speaking of carnal embrace. Are you, Mamma?
Certainly not. Do you know of carnal embrace?
Everything thanks to Septimus. Noakes' scheme of the garden is perfect. It's a Salvatore.
What does she mean?
Salvatore Rota, your ladyship, the painter. He is indeed the very exemplar of the picturesque style.
Hodge, what is this?
She speaks from innocence, not from experience.
You call it innocence? Has he ruined the child?
Answer your uncle.
How is a ruined child different from a ruined castle?
On such questions, I defer to Mr. Noakes.
A ruined castle is picturesque, certainly.
That is the main difference. I teach the classical authors. If I do not elucidate their meaning, who will?
As a tutor, you have a duty to keep her in ignorance.
Do not dabble in paradox, Edward. It puts you in danger of gratuitous wit. Thomasina, wait in your bedroom.
Yes, Mamma. I did not mean to get you into trouble, Septimus. I am very sorry for it. It is plain that there are some things a girl is allowed to understand, and this includes the whole of algebra, but there are others, such as embracing a side of beef, that must be kept from her until she is old enough to have a carcass of her own.
One moment. What is she talking about?
Read.
Read?
Thomasina, you had better read. Your knowledge of the picturesque obviously exceeds anything the rest of us has to offer. Mr. Hodge, ignorance should be kept like an empty vessel waiting to be filled at the well of truth, not a cabinet of vulgar curios. Mr. Noakes, now at last is your turn.
Thank you, my lady.
Your drawing is a very wonderful transformation, is it not? Look, here is the volume as it appears to us now. And here, as it might be when Mr. Noakes has done with it, where there's a familiar pastoral refinement of Nicholas's garden, here is an eruption of gloomy forest and towering crag, of ruins where there was never a house, of water dashing a spring nor a stone. I cannot throw the leg of a pretty fish. My hyacinth belt has become a haunt for hobgoblins, and my Chinese bridge, which I'm assured is superior to one cube, and for all I know, the one at Peking has become usurped by a fallen obelisk overgrown with briars.
Lord Little has one very
I
similar.
cannot believe Lord Little's misfortunes by adding to my own. Pray, what is this rustic hovel that presumes to superpose itself on my gazebo?
That is the hermitage, my lady.
The hermitage. I am.
It is all irregular, Mr. Noakes.
It is, sir. See, irregularity is one of the chiefest principles of the picturesque style.
But Sidley Park is already a picture, and the most amiable picture too. The slopes are green and gentle, the trees are companionably grouped in intervals that show to advantage. The rill is a serpentine-driven unwound from the lake, peaceably contained by meadows on which the right amount of sheep are tastefully arranged. In short, it is nature as God intended. And I can say with the painter, et in Arcadia ego. Here I am in Arcadia, Thomasina.
If you would have it so, Mamma.
She corrected my taste or my translation.
Neither of you on correction, Mamma. It was your geography caused that.
Something has occurred with the girl since I saw her last. And surely that was yesterday. How old are you this morning?
13 years and 10 months, Mamma.
13 years and 10 months. She is not due to be pert for the next 6 months at the earliest, nor to have noticed the taste for much longer. Mr. Hodge, I hold you accountable. Mr. Noakes, back to you.
Thank you, my lady.
You have been reading too many novels by Mrs. Bradley. That is my opinion. This is the garden for The Castle of Otranto, or The Mysteries of Donovan.
The Castle of Otranto, your ladyship, is by horse thoughtful.
Mr. Walpole the gardener.
Mr. Chater. You are a welcome guest at Sidley Park, but while you are one, The Castle of Otranto was written by whomsoever I say it was. That's what's the point of being a guest, or having one. Well, the guns have reached the ground. I will speak to his lordship on the subject, and he will see by and by. Ah, your friend's got on a pigeon, Mr. Hodge. Bravo, sir.
The pigeon most likely fell to your husband or to your son. My school friend was never much of a sportsman.
Yes, to Augustus. Bravo, lad.
Well, come along. Where are my troops?
My dear Mr. Hodge.
Pop, pop, pop. I have grown up in the sound of guns like the child of a siege. Pigeons and rooks in the close season, grouse on the heights from August, and the pheasants to follow. Partridge, snipe, woodcock, and teal, pop, 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 and the culling of the herd. Papa has no need for the recording angel. His life is written in the game book.
A calendar of slaughter, even in Arcadia. There am I.
Fully to death. I shall put in a hermit. For what is a hermitage without a hermit? Are you in love with my mother, Septimus?
You must not be cleverer than your elders. It's not polite.
Am I cleverer?
Yes, much.
Well, I am sorry, Septimus. Mrs. Chater came into the newsroom with a note for you. She said it was of scant importance and that therefore I should carry it to you with the utmost safety, urgency, and discretion. Does carnal embrace addle the brain?
Invariably. Thank you.
There. I have made him like the Baptist in the wilderness.
How picturesque.
Oh, well, she was here.
The French window?
Yes, hang on.
Salt.
The best thing is, you wait here. Save you tramping around. She spends a good deal of time in the garden, as you may imagine.
Yes, why?
Well, she's writing a history of the garden. Didn't you know?
No, I knew she was working on the Croon papers,
Well, it's not exactly a history of the garden either. I'll let Hannah explain it. The trench you nearly drove into is all to do with it. I was going to say make yourself comfortable, but, well, that's hardly possible. Everything's been cleared out. Don Rick's been in your laboratory.
Everything is?
No, this room is. They drew the line at Chemical Ladies.
Yes, I see. Did you say Hannah?
Hannah, yes. Will you be all right? I mean, I'd not be... Mr. Nightingale?
Yes, sorry. Miss Jarvis is Hannah Jarvis, the author?
Yes. Have you had her book?
Yes, yes.
I bet she's in the Hermitage. Can't see from here with the marquee.
Yes, are you having a garden party?
A dance for the district. Our annual dressing up and general drunkenness. So anything that can be destroyed, stolen, or vomited on has been tactfully removed. Tactlessly, I should say.
Look, would you tell her... Would you mind not mentioning my name just yet?
Oh, all right.
For fun, to surprise her, would you mind?
No, but she's bound to ask. Should I give you another name? Just for the moment.
Yes, why not?
Perhaps I'm a bird. You're not William Nightingale.
Oh, hello. Sod. Flo! She's in the garden looking for Miss Jarvis.
Where is everything?
It's been removed for the...
That's the whole attendant.
Yes, but this is the way to the nearest toilet.
I need to come out.
Oh. Can't you use the toilet?
It's got the cables in it.
The toilet has the remote has.
Is anyone looking after you?
Yes, thank you. I'm Bernard Donovan. I'm going to see Miss Jarvis. I wrote to Lord Croon, but unfortunately I never received a reply, so...
Did you type it?
Type it?
Was your letter typewritten?
Yes.
My father never replies to typewritten letters. Oh, where have you been hiding lately?
So I telephoned yesterday, and I believe I spoke to you.
To me? Ah, yes, sorry. You were doing a talk about someone, and you wanted to ask Hannah something.
Yes, as it turns out. I'm hoping Miss Jarvis will look kindly on me.
I doubt it.
Oh, you know about research.
I know Hannah.
Has she been here long?
Well, in possession, I'm afraid. My mother read the book, you see. She's terrifically pleased with herself.
Well, I dare say if I wrote a bestseller.
No, it's actually about my mother actually is pleased with herself for reading it. I mean, she basically reads garden books.
Oh, she must be delighted that Hannah Jarvis writing a book about her garden.
Actually, it's about feminist. Oh, it's all right. That's what do you want? No, I'll take lightning for a run.
Actually, we
that?
Yes, a colleague of mine believed he had found an unattributed short story by D.H. Lawrence, and he analyzed it on his home computer. Most interesting. Perhaps you'll remember the paper.
Not really, but I often sit with my eyes closed, and it doesn't necessarily keep him awake. Oh, well, here she comes. I'll leave you to talk. By the way, is yours the Red Master?
Yes.
If you're to tip, I put it on a thread in the stable box before my father comes in. He won't have anyone in the house with the Japanese car. Are you queer?
No, actually.
Even so.
Mr. Peacock.
Oh, yes, hello, Miss Charles, of course. It's such a pleasure. I'm so sorry. I was thrown for a moment. The photograph doesn't do you justice.
Photograph.
On the book, I'm so sorry to have brought you indoors, but Lady Chloe...
Are you a journalist?
No.
I've been in the harbor. Very spongy.
Ha-ha!
What?
Oh, a theory of mine. Ha-ha-ha-ha! If you were strolling down the lawn and all of a sudden the ground gave way at your feet, you're not going to go ha-ha, you're going to jump back and go ha-ha, or probably bloody hell.
Mr. Peacock, what can I do for you?
Well, to begin with, you can call me Herbert, which is my name.
Thank you.
The book is a revelation. To see Caroline Lamb through your eyes is really like seeing her for the first time. 2019 is my period as much as anything is.
You teach?
Yes, and right. Like you, like we all. Though I've never done anything which has sold like cargo.
I don't teach.
No, all the more credit to you. Let the brats sort it out for themselves. Anyways, many congratulations. I soon will be bringing out Caroline Lamb's Huhnke now.
Yes, I expect so.
How wonderful! Bravo! Simply as a document shedding reflected light on the character of Lord Byron. It's bound to be.
You did say Bernard, didn't you?
I did.
I'm putting my shoes on again.
Oh, you're not going to go out.
No, I'm going to kick you in the balls.
Right. Point taken. Ezra Chater.
Ezra Chick.
Born Twinkling, Middlesex, 1778, author of two verse narratives, The Maid of Turkey, 1808, and The Count of Eros, 1809. Nothing known after 1809 disappears from view.
I see. And?
There is a Sidney Park connection. To my friend Septimus Hodge, who stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author, Ezra Chater, at Sidney Park, Derbyshire, April 10, 1809. I'm in your hands.
The Couch of Eros. Is it any good?
Quite surprising. I've got to talk to him next week in London. I think Chater is interesting. So anything on him or this Septimus Hodge, Sidney Park, any leads at all, I'd be most grateful.
Septimus Hodge was the teacher.
That's a girl?
His pupil was the crooned daughter. There was a son at Eton. The paybook specifies allowances for wine and candles. So he lives in the house. So not quite a guest, but rather more than a steward. His letter of self-recommendation is preserved among the papers. I'll dig it out for you. As far as I recall, he studied mathematics and natural philosophy at Cambridge. A scientist, therefore, as much as anything.
Thank you. I'm impressed. And Chater?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
I'm afraid not. I've been very thorough in your period, because, of course, it's my period, too.
Is it? Actually, I don't quite know what it is yours.
Sidney Hunt.
Ah! Who's he?
He's my pet, the nervous breakdown of the romantic imagination. I'm doing landscape and literature, 1750 to 1834.
What happened in 1834?
My hermit died.
Of course.
What do you mean, of course?
Nothing.
Yes, you do.
No. Only Coleridge also died in 1834.
So he did. What a stroke of luck. Thank you. Look, there he is. The only known likeness of the Sidney Hermit.
Very biblical.
Drawn in by a later hand, of course. The Hermitage didn't yet exist when Noakes did the drawings.
Notes, the painter?
Landscape gardener. He did these drawing books for his clients as a sort of prospectus. Before and after, you see. This is how it all looked until, say, 1810. Smooth, undulating, serpentine, open water, clumps of trees, classical locales.
Lovely. Real England.
You can stop being silly now, Bernard. English landscape was invented by gardeners imitating foreign painters who were evoking classical Untamed nature in the style of Salvatore Rosa. It's the Gothic novel expressed in landscape. The Hermit of Sidley Park was my
Hey,
epiphany.
Epiphany, that's it.
The hermit was placed in the landscape, exactly as one might place a garden. And he lived out his life there as a garden ornament.
Did he do anything?
Oh, he was very busy. When he died, the cottage was stacked solid with paper. Hundreds of pages. Thousands. Peacock says he was suspected of genius. Turns out, of course, he was off his head. He covered every page with cabalistic proofs that the world was coming to an end. It's perfect, isn't it? A perfect symbol, I mean.
Oh, yes. Of what?
The whole romantic sham, Bernard. It's what happened to the Enlightenment, isn't it? A century of intellectual rigor turned in on itself. A mind in chaos, suspected of genius, in a setting of cheap thrills and false emotion. The history of the garden says it all beautifully. There's an engraving of Sidney Park in 1730 that makes you want to weep. Paradise in the age of reason. By 1760, everything had gone. The topiary, pools and terraces, fountains, an avenue of limes. The whole sublime geometry of the place was plowed under by capability ground. The grass went from your doorstep to the horizon, and the best box hedge in Derbyshire was dug up for the ha-ha. The fools could pretend they were living in God's countryside. And then, Richard Noakes came in to bring God up to date. By the time he finished, it looked like this. The decline from thinking to feeling, you see.
That's awfully good. No, that will stand up. The hermit is very, very good. The genius of the place.
That's my title.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. Who was he when he wasn't being simple?
I don't know.
Ah.
I mean, yes.
Have you come across Byron at all as a matter of interest?
First edition of Child's Herald in the library, and English Bonds, I think.
Inscribed?
No.
And he doesn't pop up in the letters at all?
Why should he? The crews don't pop up in his.
That's true. But you said wasn't so far away. Would you mind if I talked about it? Only in the things you've done, of course.
Are you looking into Byron or Chase? Sorry, just cutting through. There's tea in the pantry, if you don't mind, Mum.
How kind.
Hannah will show you.
Oh, here, let me help you.
No, it's all right. Thank you. I've been saving Val's game notes. Thanks.
Sweet girl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Oh, really what? Meant to say. Don't worry if Father makes remarks about your car, Mr. Nightingale. He's got a thing about... Oh! How was the surprise? Not yet, eh? Sorry. Tea, anyway. So sorry if I'm... Sorry. Nightingale. Sussex. Yes, 1,000 words for the observer to see me off the premises with a pat on the foot. Absolute shit.
Well, the thing is, there's a Byron connection, too.
I don't care.
Well, you should. The Byron gang are going to get their dicks caught in a zip.
Oh, really?
If we collaborate,
On what?
sit down. I'll tell you.
I'll stand for the moment.
This copy of the Couch of Eros belonged to Lord Byron.
It belonged to Septimus Hart.
Originally, yes, but it was in Byron's library, which was sold in 1816 when he left England for good to pay his debts.
All right. It was in Byron's library.
A number of passages have been underlined, but all of them, no, look at me, not at the book. All of them, word for word, were used as quotations in the review of the Couch of Eros in the Piccadilly Recreation of April 30th, 1809.
The reviewer is obviously harsh. To my friend Septimus Hodge, stood up and gave his best on behalf of the author.
That's the point. we have a matter to settle. I wait on you in the gun room. Trader, Esquire. My husband has sent the town for pistols. Denial cannot be proven. For charity's sake. I keep my room this day. Unsigned. City Park, April 11, 1809. Sir, I call you a liar, a lecher, a slanderer in the press, and a thief of my honor. I wait upon your arrangements for giving me satisfaction as a man and a poet. Chafer, Esquire.
Superb, but inconclusive. The book had 7 years to make its way into Byron's collection. It doesn't connect Byron with Chater or with Sidney Park, or with Hodge for that matter. Furthermore, there isn't a hint in Byron's letters, and this kind of scrape is the last thing he would have kept quiet.
Scrape?
He would have made a comic turn out of it.
Comic turn fiddlesticks, he killed Chater.
Oh, really?
Chater was 31 years old, the author of 2 books. Nothing more is heard from him after Eros. He disappears completely after April 1809, and Byron had just published his satire, English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, in March. He was just getting a name, yes. He sailed for Lisbon as soon as he could find a ship and stayed abroad for 2 years. How? This is fame. Somewhere in the crew papers there will be something.
There isn't. I've
But
looked.
you are looking for something else. It's not going to jump out at you like Lord Byron remarked wittily at breakfast.
If I find anything on Byron, or Chater, or Hodge, I'll pass it on. Nightingale, Sussex.
Thank you. Sorry about that business with my name.
Don't mention it.
What was Hodge's college, by the way?
Trinity.
Trinity.
Yes. Yes, Byron's old college.
How old was Hodge?
I'd have to look it up, but a year or two older than Hodge. 22. No, a year or two older than Byron. 22.
Contemporaries at Trinity?
Yes, Bernard. And no doubt, they were both in the cricket 11 when Harold played Eton at law.
You mean to say that Hodge went to school with Byron?
Yes. He must have. As a matter of
Well, you
fact...
silly cow!
Oh, I thought I'd bring it to you.
I have to go and see about my car.
Going to hide it.
Hide it? I'm going to sell it. Now, is there a pub I can put on that in the village? Aren't you glad I'm here?
He said he knew you.
He couldn't have.
No, perhaps not. He said he wanted to be a surprise. I suppose that's different. I thought there was a lot of sexual energy there, didn't you? What? You know, bouncing on his feet. A sure sign. Should I invite him for you?
To what? No.
You can invite him. That's better. He can come as your partner.
Stop it. Thank you for the tea.
Well, if you don't want him, I'll have him. Is he married?
I haven't the slightest idea. Aren't you supposed to have a pony?
I'm just trying to fix you up, Hannah.
Believe me, it gets less important.
I meant for the dancing. He can come as Beau Brummel.
I don't want to dress up, and I don't want a dancing partner. Least of all, Mr. Nightingale. I don't dance.
Don't be such a prude. You were kissing him anyway.
He was kissing me, and only out of general enthusiasm.
Well, don't say I didn't give you first chance. My genius brother will be much relieved. He's in love with you. I suppose you know.
That's a joke.
It's not a joke to him.
Of course it is. Not even a joke. How can it be so ridiculous?
Hello, Gus. What have you got?
Thank you.
Told you.
Thank you.
if you would be so kind.
Yes, sir.
Why differ from lovers? Oh, Septimus! Musica diviarum imperarum. Music of pipes commanded.
Ruled is better.
Silver oars exciting the ocean, as if amorous.
That is very good.
Regina reclinava. The queen was reclining, prater descriptione, indescribably, in a golden tent, like Venus, and yet more.
Try to put some more poetry into it.
How can I if there is none in the Latin?
Oh, a critic.
Is it Queen Dido?
No.
Who is the poet?
Known to you.
Known to me.
Not a Roman.
Is it Mr. Chater?
Your translation is quite like Chater.
Oh, I know who it is. It is your friend Byron.
Lord Byron, if you please.
Mamma is in love with Lord Byron.
Yes, nonsense.
Oh, it is not nonsense. I saw them together in the gazebo. Lord Byron was reading to her from his satire. Mamma was laughing with her head in her best position.
You did not understand his satire and were showing politeness to a guest.
Mamma is vexed with Papa's determination to alter the park, but that alone cannot account for her politeness to a guest. She came downstairs hours before her custom. Lord Byron was amusing at breakfast. He paid you a tribute, Septimus. He said you were a witty fellow. He had almost by heart an article you wrote about, well, I forget what, but it concerned a book called The Maid of Turkey and how you would not feed it to your dog for dinner.
Ah, and Mr. Chater was at breakfast?
He was, unlike certain lazy bones.
He did not have Latin to set and mathematics to correct.
Correct. What was incorrect in it? Alpha minus? What is the minus for?
For doing more than was asked.
You do not like my discovery?
A fancy is not a discovery.
A jibe is not a rebuttal. You are being churlish with me because Mamma is paying attention to your friend. Well, let them alone. They cannot turn back the advancement of knowledge. I think it is an excellent discovery. Each week I plot your equations, dot for dot, x's against y's, in all manner of algebraic relation, and everything it draws itself as commonplace geometry. As if the world of forms were nothing but arcs and angles. God's truth, Septimus, if there is an equation for a curve like a bell, there must be an equation for one like a bluebell. And if a bluebell, why not a rose? Do we believe nature is written in numbers?
We do.
Then why do your equations only describe the shapes of manufacture?
Have you not known?
Aren't thus God could only make a cabinet?
He has a mastery of equations which lead into infinities where we cannot follow.
Oh, what a faint heart. We must work outward from the middle of the maze. We will start with something simple. I will plot this leaf and deduce its equation, and you'll be famous for being my tutor when Lord Byron is dead and forgotten.
Back to Cleopatra.
Is it Cleopatra? I hate Cleopatra.
You hate her. Why?
I think I was turned to love with her. New love, absent love, lost love. I have never known of a heroine who has made such noodles of our sex.
God save us.
The Egyptian noodle made carnal embrace with the enemy that burned the great library of Alexandria without so much as a fine for all this overdue. Oh, Septimus, can you bear it? All the lost plays of the Athenians, 200 at least by Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, thousands of poems, Aristotle's own library, brought to Egypt by the noodle's ancestors. How can we sleep for grief?
By counting our stock. Seven from Aeschylus, 7 from Sophocles, 19 from Euripides, my lady. You should grieve for the rest, no more than you should grieve for a buckle lost from a shoe, or for your first lesson book, which will be lost when you are over. We shed as we pick up. Like travelers, we must carry everything in their arms, and what we let fall will be picked up by those behind. The procession is very long and life is very short. We die on the march. But there is nothing outside of the march, so nothing can be lost to it. The missing plays of Sophocles will turn up piece by piece, or be written again in another language. Ancient cures for diseases will reveal themselves once more. mathematical discoveries, glimpsed and lost to view, will have their time again. You do not suppose, my lady, that at all of our communities been hiding in that great library of Alexandria, that we would be at a loss for a corkscrew? Now, I have no doubt that the improved steam-driven heat engine, which puts Mr. Noakes into an ecstasy, such that he and it and the modern age should all coincide, was described on the papyrus. Steam and brass were not invented in Glasgow. Now, where were we? Let me see if I can attempt a free translation for you. Ah, yes. The barge she sat in, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten with gold, purple the sails, and they were soaked the fields, and the winds were lovesick with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of flutes kept stroke. And they walls which they beat to follow faster, as amorous of their strokes. The her part she did lie in her pavilion.
I hope you die!
Good God, man, what have you told her?
Told her what?
Marge?
Mr. Chater, do come in, sir. Stay out. Easy. On you go.
Captain Price does me the honor. I mean to say, sir, whatever you have to say to me, sir, address yourself to Captain Price.
How unusual. Your wife did not appear at breakfast this morning. I trust she is not ill.
Why, I have no wife. What the devil do you mean, sir?
I do not understand the scheme, Chater. Whom do I address when I wish to speak to Captain Bryce?
Slippery, Hodge, slippery.
By the way, Chater, I have amazing news to tell you. Someone has taken to writing wild and whirling letters in your name. I received one not half an hour ago.
Mr. Hodge, look to your honor, sir. If you cannot attend to me without this foolery, now GHSTA might conduct the business as between gentlemen. No doubt your friend Margaret would do the service.
Yes, you would do me this service. Sir, I repent your injury. I see you are an honest man, with no more malice in you than poetry.
It is more like the thing. Is he apologizing?
There is still matter of the injury to his conjugal property, Mrs. Jacob.
Push, sir.
As you will, but push. Nevertheless,
Oh, Mr. Chater, excellently brown. Lord Byron begs a copy of your new book. He dies to read it and intends to your name in the second edition of English Bards and Scotch Reviewers.
English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, your ladyship, is a doggerel aimed at Lord Byron's seniors and betters. If he intends to include me, ma'am, he intends to insult me.
Well, of course he does, Mr. Chater. Would you rather be thought not worth insulting? You should be proud to be in the company of Rogers, Moore, and Wordsworth. Oh, the Count Chavero.
That is my copy, madame.
So much for the better. For a friend's books are not to be borrowed. Mr. Hodge, you must speak to your friend and put out his affectation of returning the quits. I will not have it. He says he's determined on the mountain packet so they got it found. His head is full of Lisbon and Lesbos and his portmanteau of pistols, and I told him it's not to be thought of. He says his aim is poetry. One does not aim at poetry and pistols. At poets, perhaps. I charge you to take a man of his pistols, Mr. Hodge. He is not safe with them. His lameness, he confessed to me, is entirely the result of his habit from boyhood of shooting himself in the foot. What is that noise?
The new Broadwood piano forte, madame. Our music lessons are at an early stage.
Well, restrict your lessons to the piano side of the instrument and let her loose on the forte when she's learned something.
now if that's not God speaking for Lady Crew, never spoke for anyone.
Take command of Lord Byron's pistols.
You give Mr. Chater, sir. I will be honest with him.
By killing him, I am tired of him.
Huh?
Damn your soul, Chater. Ovid would have stayed lawyer and Virgil a farmer if they had known the battles to which love would descend in your sportive satyrs and your noodle nymphs. I am at your service, sir, with a half-ounce ball in your brain. May it please you, behind the birch house at daybreak, shall we say 5 o'clock? My compliments to Mrs. Chater. She will not want for protection while Captain Bryce has a guinea in his pocket. He told us so himself.
You lie, sir.
No, Mrs. Chater, perhaps.
You lie or you will answer to me.
Very well. In future, 5 after 5. Yes. Then it's off to the mortar packet out of former. You two will be dead. My penurious schoolfriend will remain to tutor Lady Thomasina, and I trust that everyone, including Lady Coombe, will be satisfied.
He's all lost and loud. Rest assured, Traitor, I will let you out of it.
Oh. What? Captain Bryce?
Iterated algorithm.
What's that?
It's an algorithm that's been iterated. How am I supposed to... The left-hand pages are graphs of what the numbers are doing on the right-hand pages, but all on different scales. Each graph is a section of the previous one, blown up, like you blow a detail of a photograph, and then a detail of the detail, and so on, forever. Or, in her case, illustrated pages.
Is it difficult?
The maths isn't difficult. It's what you did in school. You have some x and y equation. Any value of x gives you a value for y. So you put a dot where it's right for both x and y. Then you take the next value of x, which gives you another value for y. And when you've done that a few times, you join up the dots, and that's your graph of whatever the equation is.
And is that what she's doing?
No, not exactly. Not at all. What she's doing is, each time she works out a value for y, she's using that as the next value for x. Like a feedback. She's feeding the solution back into the equation and solving it. Iteration, you see.
And that's surprising, is it?
Well, it is a bit. It's the technique I'm using on my grad numbers, and it hasn't been around much longer than, well, call it 20 years.
Why would she be doing it?
I have no idea. I thought you were doing the learning.
Still am. Bono, damn him. Thomasina's tutor turns out to have interesting connections. Bernard has been going to the library by the bloodhound. The portfolio was in a cupboard.
There's a lot of stuff around. Just lads go through it. No old masters or anything.
The multi-prime she was using belonged to him, the tutor. He wrote his name in it.
Septimus Hodge.
Why were these things saved, do you think?
Why should there be a reason?
And the diagram. What's it up?
How should I know?
Why are you cross?
I'm not cross. When your Thomasina was doing maths, it had been the same maths for a couple thousand years. Classical. And then for a century after Thomasina. Then maths left the real world behind. Just like modern art, really. Nature was classical. Maths was suddenly the concept. But now, nature is having the last laugh. The freaky stuff is turning out to be the mathematics of the natural world.
This feedback thing.
For example,
Well, could
no,
Thomasina...
of course you wouldn't.
All right. You're not cross. What did you mean you were doing the same thing she was doing? What are you doing?
Actually, I'm doing it from the other end. She started with an equation and turned it into a graph. I've got a graph, real data, and I'm trying to find the equation which will give you that graph if you use it the way she seems to iterate it.
What for?
It's how you look at population changes in biology. Goldfish in a pond, say. This year there are X goldfish. Next year there will be Y goldfish. Some
some get born, some get eaten by crabs, whatever. Nature manipulates the X and turns it into Y. Then Y publishes your starting population for the following year. Just like Thomasina. Your value for Y becomes your next value of X. The question is, what is the manipulation? What is being put in X? Whatever it is, it can be written down as mathematics. It's called an algorithm.
It can't be the same every year.
The details change. You can't keep tabs on everything. It's not nature in a box. But it isn't necessary to have all the details. When they are put together, it turns out the population is obeying a mathematical rule.
The goldfish are.
Yes. No. The numbers. It's not about the behavior of fish. It's about the behavior of numbers. This thing works for any phenomenon which needs its own numbers. Cotton prices, rainfall averages, measles epidemics.
Does it work for grouse?
I don't know either. I mean, it does undoubtedly, but it's hard to show. There's a lot more noise with grouse.
Noise.
Distortions, interferences. There's 1,000 acres of moorland that had grouse on it. Always did till about 1930. But nobody counted the grouse. They shot them. So you count the grouse, they shot. But burning the heather interferes. It improves the food supply. A good year for foxes interferes the other way. They eat the chicks. And then there's the weather. It's all very, very noisy out there. Very hard to spot the tune. Like a piano in the next room. It's playing your song, but unfortunately it's out of whack. Some of the strings are missing, and the pianist is tone deaf and drunk. I mean, the noise, impossible.
What do?
You start guessing what the tune might be. You try to pick it out of the noise. You try this, you try that. You start to get something. It's half-baked, but you start putting notes which are missing, or not quite the right notes, and bit by bit, dum-de-dum-dum-dum-dum, dum-de-dum-dum-dum-dum, dum-de-dum-dum, dear Valentine, dum-de-dum-dum to you, the lost algorithm.
Yes, I see. And then what?
I publish.
Of course. Sorry. Very good.
That's the theory. Grouse are bastards compared to goldfish.
Why did you choose them?
The game books, my true inheritance. 200 years of real data on a plate.
Somebody wrote down everything that shot.
Well, that's what the game book is. I'm only using from 1870 when Box and Beaters came in.
You mean the game books go back to Thomasina's time?
Oh yes, but no, really, I promise. I promise you. Not a schoolgirl living in a country house in Derbyshire in 18-something.
Well, what was she doing?
She was just playing with numbers. The truth is, she wasn't doing anything.
She must have been doing something.
Doodling. Nothing she understood.
A monkey at a typewriter.
Yes, well, a cat.
A method whereby all the forms of nature must give up their numerical secrets and draw themselves through number alone. This feedback, is it a way of making pictures of forms of nature? Just tell me if it is or it isn't.
To me, it is. Pictures of turbulence, growth, change, creation. It's not a way of drawing an elephant, for God's sake.
I'm sorry. So, you couldn't make a picture of this leaf by iterating on what's it?
Oh, yes, you could do that.
Well, tell me! Honestly, I could kill you.
If you knew the algorithm and fed it back, say, 10,000 times, then each time there'd be a dot on the screen. You'd never know where to expect the next dot, but gradually you'd start to see this shape, because each dot would be inside the shape of this leaf. It wouldn't be a leaf, it would be a mathematical object. But yes, it makes me so happy to be at the beginning again, knowing almost nothing. People were talking about the end of physics. Relativity and quantum looked as if they were going to clean up the whole problem between them. A theory of everything. But they only explain the very big and the very small. The universe, the elementary particles. The ordinary slice of which is our lives. The things people write poetry about. Clouds, daffodils, waterfalls, and what happens in a cup of coffee when the cream goes in. These things are full of mystery. As mysterious to us as the heavens were to the Greeks. We're better at predicting events at the edge of the galaxy, or inside the nucleus of an atom, than whether it will rain on Auntie's garden party 3 Sundays from now. Because the problem turns out to be different. We can't even predict the next drip from a dripping tap once it gets irregular. Each drip sets up the conditions for the next. The smallest variation blows prediction apart. And the weather is unpredictable the same way. Will always be unpredictable. When you push the numbers through the computer, you can see it on the screen. The future is disorder. A door like this is cracked open 5 or 6 times since we got up on our hind legs. It's the best possible time to be alive, when almost everything you thought you knew is wrong.
What is he playing?
I don't know. He makes it up.
Chloe called him genius.
It's what my mother calls him, only she means it. Last year, some expert had her digging in the wrong place for months to find something or other, the foundations for capability grounds both have, and just put her right first go.
Did he ever speak?
Oh, yes, until he was 5. You've never asked about him before. You gave high marks here for good breeding.
Yes, I know. I've always been given credit for my own concern.
English bards and Scotch reviewers, a pencil superscription. Listen and kiss my cycle clips. A harbinger of sleep who missed the press and hoped his drone might thus escape redress. The wretched traitor, bard of Error's couch, for his narcotic, let my pencil vouch. You see, you have to turn over every
Is
page.
it his handwriting?
Oh, come on!
Obviously not.
Yes, what do you want?
Proof.
Quite right. Who are you talking about?
Proof you'd have to be there, you silly cow.
I say you're speaking of my fiancée.
Especially when I have proof. Guess what I found? Lady Crewe writing from London to her husband. Her brother, Captain Rice, married a Mrs. Chater. In other words, we might assume a widow.
I said he was dead, was he? 1810. My God, had 1810, well done! Are you going to tell me it's a different Mrs. Chater?
Oh no, it's her all right. Noted Christian name.
Charity? Tonight was cannot be proven for charity's sake.
Don't kiss
She
me.
won't let anyone kiss her.
You see, they wrote, they scribbled, they put it on paper. It was their employment, their diversion. Paper is what they had. And there'll be more. There is always more. We can find it.
Such passion. First Valentine, now you. It's moving.
The aristocrat friend of the tutor under the same roof as the poor son whose book he sandwiched. First thing he does is seduce Chater's wife. There is a duel. Chater dead, father fled. Yes, guess what? The widow married her ladyship's brother. Do you honestly think no one wrote a word? How could they not? It was dropped from sight, but we will write it again.
You can, Bernard. I'm not going to take any credit. I haven't done anything.
That's very fair. Generous.
Prudent. Chater could have died of anything, anywhere.
But he fought a duel with Byron.
Haven't established it was fault. Haven't established it was Byron. For God's sake, Bernard, haven't established Byron was even here.
I'll tell you your problem. No guts.
Really?
By which I mean a visceral belief in yourself, gut instinct, the certainty for which there is no back reference. Because time is reversed. Top tick goes the universe and then recovers itself. But it was enough, and you were in there, and you bloody know.
Are you talking about Lord Byron the poet?
You fucking idiot! We're talking about Lord Byron, the chartered accountant.
He was here all right, the poet.
How do you know?
He's in the games. I think he shot a hare. I read through the whole lot once when I had masked. Some quite interesting.
Where's the book?
Not when I was in, too early, of course.
1809.
They've always been in the code. Ask Chloe.
Chloe! Chloe! Chloe!
My mother's London pub bicycle. Lending one's bicycle is a form of safe sex. Perhaps the safest there is. My mother's all in a flutter about Bernard, and he's no fool. He gave her a first edition of Horace Walpole, and now she's lent him a bicycle. Can I keep these for a while?
Yes, of course.
Yes, finished class, coming now.
What I don't understand is why no one did this feedback thing before. It's not like relativity. You don't have to be Einstein.
You couldn't see to look before. The electronic calculator was what the telescope was for Galileo.
Calculate.
There wasn't enough time before. There weren't enough pencils. This took her, I don't know how many days, and she hasn't scratched the paintwork. Now she'd only have to press a button, the same button over and over. Iteration, a few minutes. And what I've done in a couple months, with only a pencil, the calculations would take me the rest of my life to do again. Thousands of pages, tens of thousands, and so boring.
Do you mean...
All right, Les, I'm coming.
Do you mean that was the only problem? Enough time? And paper? And the boredom?
We're going to get out the dressing up box.
Sal, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying you have to have a reason for doing it. He hates people shouting.
I'm sorry. But anything else?
Well, the other thing is you'd have to be insane.